Hey everyone, it's Bigfoot. Today is Gear Thursday, and I'm going to be reviewing a piece of gear that I actually acquired on the Appalachian Trail when I was at Trail Days, which is the Zpacks 4-in-1 multi-pack. Now, this was something that complemented my pack, and I got this for a few different reasons. Now, before I get into the reasons, let me tell you about what you actually can use this for. So, it is 4-in-1. The first thing you can use this for is basically like a brain which goes over the top of your pack. I never saw anybody actually use this, and I actually probably only saw maybe 3 of these on the actual Appalachian Trail. The next is the actual way that I used it, which is a chest pack. The next, you can actually use this as a belt pack, and then lastly as a satchel. So the nice thing about this is you can basically transform this into whatever you need. Most of the time I always had it as a chest pack. However, I did use this as a satchel or a belt pack when I was actually in town. When I wanted to walk around town and actually carry a few things with me that I really didn't have enough room for in my pockets, I was able to use this, which was really nice. So anyway, that's really the functionality that you can have with this, but I want to talk more about this and why I chose this. Alright, well, my main purpose of buying this was really to complement my existing setup by having a front pack that I could store whatever I wanted to that had better accessibility than me having to take off my pack and grabbing things or having to reach my arm around inconveniently and uncomfortably to try to grab some food out of the side pouch. Now this was really meant for me to be really more efficient. I kept mainly food and a few other pieces of gear in here, but most of this was filled up with food. I'll open this up in a second and show you what I have in this. But anyway, a few things about the specs on this 4-in-1 pack. First of all, it is 3.5 liters in total volume, so it has a fair amount of capacity. It is water resistant, not waterproof. This does have the ability to have 4 different features, as I said earlier, and the different placement of the straps here really allows you to be able to conform it to not just those 4 different ways that you'd use it, but also to other packs. So this is not just meant for the Zpacks Arc Blast that I had, but it is made where you can basically accommodate it to most packs. At least that's what Zpacks says on the website. The weight of this, including all of the 4 straps and the belts and buckles, comes in at 2.9 ounces. Now, this instantly became one of my favorite pieces of gear just because of how much time that it saved me on the trail. I would say on average, I probably saved about a half an hour a day just with preventing myself from having to take off my pack so often. Anytime I did do that, I just kind of lost my mojo, and especially when I was in a groove, it really kind of stopped it. A great thing about this as well, because I had so many things so accessible, I found that I had an easier time with eating more often on the trail. Sometimes it was difficult for me to eat frequently because I knew I needed the calories, especially with how many miles that I was doing a day. But I was able to carry more food in here, and yeah, it was just simple for me to eat and hike at the same time. So that was great about this. Now I mentioned that this has a 3.5 liter capacity, and sometimes I found myself probably overstuffing this, and because of that I actually had some issues with a little bit of rippage on the material itself. You can see right there, and then on the adjacent side of that I had the same problem. Now I do believe that I probably overstuffed this, and some of the things that were in here were a little heavy, but that was one issue that I had. The other issue that I had with this, and honestly this is just kind of comes with the physics of where you're placing this, but there was no airflow on the front of my body because I had this snug up against my body. I had to have it snug up against my body because you can loosen and tighten however you want, but if it's not tight up against your body, this whole thing, depending on how much weight you actually have in here, is going to be bouncing a lot, and that got really annoying. So I did have to have it basically taut against my body, but I didn't have a lot of airflow coming from between my skin, my shirt, and the back of the pack. So what this created really was a lot of perspiration that really was never able to air out, and because of that, after maybe 6 hours of hiking, I know this is going to sound a little gross, but the the sweat would actually start to protrude a little bit into my pack, and I would start to get some moisture inside of my actual pouch. Now, one thing that I didn't really realize and I didn't really think about when I was on the trail, but Zpacks does recommend this, is to actually have a gallon size Ziploc bag and line this, especially if you have any electronics inside of here. Now, I actually did keep electronics in here as well as food. Even outside of having electronics, if you were just carrying food, I would definitely recommend having a gallon size Ziploc bag, just so that you can have another liner, because you are going to have perspiration when it does rain. The most vulnerable area really was on the top here. There's going to be some of the moisture that's going to get through. All right, well, I want to demonstrate how I set this up and wore this on the Appalachian Trail. So first, you're going to need to find 4 different areas to attach your belts. On the Zpacks Arctic Blast that I had, the 4 places that I recommend are your 2 belt loops that are on the top of your shoulders, and then the 2 that are just to the side of your belt. If you have a different pack that you're going to be using this on, basically it's going to be probably in that same area. You're going to have the leverage where your 4-in-1 pouch is going to be nice and tight and taut against your chest, so it doesn't have all that movement on the trail. Now, after you're doing that, you're going to attach the 4-in-1 pack. What I did, every time that I would put my pack on and take my pack off, I would always unclip the left side of the pack. I kept the right side of my pack always attached, unless if I actually had to take my entire pouch off and wanted to use it for a different capacity when I was in town or wherever I may have needed to take it off. Well, this didn't really cause a lot of hassle for me on the trail when I would put my pack on and take my pack off. Now, it really took a little while for me to get used to this just sitting in the very front of my chest, but I will tell you, after maybe like a week, I really started to get used to it, and because it made me so much more efficient, I was able to carry just the essentials that I needed to get to frequently during the day. It really was the reason why it became one of my favorite pieces of gear. I almost felt like I was a kangaroo on the trail. All right, well, let's take a look what's in my pack. Now, this is what I carried most of the time, and during the hours of basically about 7 in the morning till about 8 o'clock at night. So starting off, I loaded this thing up with food, as you can see here. There was just a variety of goodies I had, things that were just really easy and convenient for me to be able to eat while I was walking and on the trail. If you watched my Stovis resupply video, you saw some of the things that I did buy and what basically was a common resupply for me. So these are just some of those items that I did have, and I would always pack those at the very top because those were the things that I would need to get to first and fast. Now, in addition to this, I also kept a few other things, and I wanted to kind of share with you why I kept those things. I had Body Glide in here because it was really important for me to continue to apply Body Glide to my inner thighs, because I did have a lot of issues with all the friction and things like that going on. So it was important for me to have easy accessibility to my Body Glide. The next thing you see in here is a battery pack. I know this is one of the things that probably really weighed this pack down, but what I found was on a normal day when I was doing the vlogging with my phone, checking for some of my updates or posting things on my social media, I would drain through my battery pretty fast. So most days I actually ended up having to pull my battery charger out and charge maybe another 30 or 40% just to get through some of the days. So instead of actually keeping that back in my pack and taking my pack off, I would just keep it in my front pouch along with the charging cord, and I would be able to just charge it whenever I wanted to, and I really did that for the entire rest of the trip. Now, as you can see here, this is what I recommend, keeping all of your electronics in a separate Ziploc bag. I didn't do that, and I wish I did, because I did, again, have issues with the moisture and perspiration coming through this pack. If you don't want that kind of stuff to get on your food either, then I would just throw your food in the gallon-sized pouch as well. But, again, this is another great recommendation. Now, the only other things I really kept in here that aren't shown here, number one is my little wallet that I had, my Zpacks Cuban fiber wallet. I kept that in here just because I wanted it nice and safe and close to me. The other thing that I did keep in here from time to time was my actual headlamp. If it was getting towards the later hours and I knew I was going to be doing some night hiking, I wanted easy accessibility to that, so I'd also keep that in my 4-in-1 pack as well. Alright guys, well that wraps it up. I love this piece of gear of mine. Again, I use it every day on the trail since I bought it on trail days. I will continue to use this just because it was so darn efficient. Thanks everyone. Stay tuned for next sighting, and remember to always follow Bigfoot.